This is after the flag. Round 17 of the MotoGP World Championship is in the books. We got there eventually after some delays to proceedings due to some heavy rain here today. And yet again, the race for the MotoGP World Championship is turned on its head here this afternoon in Thailand. Fabio Quartararo does still lead the World Championship with 3 races to go, but his lead has been cut to 2 points now after a miserable day for the reigning world champion in the wet conditions. I'm Lewis Suddaby. Alongside me is Simon Crafar to bring you all the analysis of what was a dramatic and delayed, of course, Thailand Grand Prix. And if we were to ask the question before the race, going to this race, who is the wet weather master of MotoGP? By the end of 25 laps, for the second time this season, we got a clear answer. It's Miguel Oliveira.
Yeah, good point. I don't know if I would have said it before the race. I put him in the 4 or 5 guys that Saturday night we always have to kind of predict for the camera guys who's going to be on the podium, and we had to say wet and dry. He was in the 4 or 5 guys that you put in for fighting for the podium, but I didn't expect him to do another dominant display. I thought it was going to be a close one.
He came all the way from 11th on the grid to win a Grand Prix. A long time since we've seen someone come from as far back as that to win a Grand Prix. All the way back in Aragon, back in 2020, when Alex Rins won from 10th. And it did feel as if there was an air of inevitability about it. As Oliveira was just picking them off one by one, he's just got that confidence in those conditions, and he's able to feel the grip underneath him. It's not a skill that everyone has. Is it something that you can learn, or is it something just you have in you?
Well, I think it's the package, meaning how much, you said the word, confidence you've got, how much feel. And I think clearly Miguel had the most, and Joe Zarco also as it dried out, Jack. But opposite is Fabio, and Fabio's good, but clearly there was something missing. I'm using that as an example because Fabio is as good, He should have been... I know his bike is not, but I would have expected him to be 6, 7, somewhere in there. But he clearly didn't have what I'm trying to describe as like a feel confident. You can tell when it's going to let go. If you haven't got that, you don't trust it, and you either fall or you slow down, and he slowed down. But yeah, Miguel, back to Miguel, hats off. The guy is class. We've said that repeatedly. I believe he's got the talent to do this in the dry as well. I think he'll do it next year in the dry at some stage, depending on how quick he makes friends with the Aprilia. But also I've got to give a shout out to KTM. As Jack said, the drive grip off the turn was amazing. Jack couldn't stay with it. So KTM clearly have done something right, and Miguel's using it to his potential. So yeah, the combination in the wet is amazing.
Yeah, we'll come back to Miguel Oliveira a little bit later on. We'll be hearing from him shortly. But at the start of the Grand Prix, really, we saw Marco Bezzecchi go backwards, of course, from his first ever pole position. He didn't even finish in the points in the end, unfortunately. He was one of the many riders who really suffered in those wet conditions. But we have to talk about the big story from a championship point of view now. Fabio Quartararo finished down in 17th place. No World Championship points for him today. He does still lead it by 2 points because of Pecco Bagnaia picking up the 16 points for third. Just how big of a knock to the confidence will this be for Fabio Quartararo? Of course, it was a wet race. We know how good he still is in the dry, but he now knows his championship lead is precarious.
Yes, and this is MotoGP, because a week ago we were saying, Fabio's done a great job and he's solid and never falls off, and that's true. And then and it was Bagnaia coming away with a mistake and no points, and Aprilia mucking up, And now you look at it, and it's all swapped around, and there's nothing in it again, championship-wise. So you cannot predict what's going to happen, And it's just as likely to turn around the other way again at Phillip Island. Fabio back on the front, I wouldn't be surprised. Back on the top step of the box. So this is getting more exciting. We were talking last night every race is important points-wise, but now the pressure, you feel it in the pit lane. We all feel it, the excitement. How much is riding on every point they get.
It was noticeable how despondent Fabio Quartararo was when he came into the Monster Energy Yamaha pit box at the end of the race. He jumped off the bike and went straight out of the back of the pit box. He didn't even want to speak to anyone in his crew. Clearly just didn't have the confidence that he needed in the wet conditions today to even salvage one World Championship point. Jack Miller it was who made the early running in this Grand Prix after Marco Bezzecchi had to give up the place early on because of running wide at turn 1. And another classy performance from Jack Miller today, coming through from 7th on the grid into 2nd place. it's amazing to consider it, given the season we've had. And, of course, he's departing Ducati at the end of the season, but he's not out of this championship yet.
No, and, I mean, it's not likely that he'll win it. You know, he's lost too much early on, but it is likely to be in that top 3 if he keeps riding like he is. And I've said it last couple of shows, I fully expect him to keep riding like this, wet or dry. He's found a setting a while ago and now another level of confidence, and I think he's keeping it every round.
Well, let's hear now from the Australian. Finished in second place today. His trip to Asia so far has yielded 45 points from a possible 50. Jack Miller, second place today. He's with Matt Birt.
Yeah, thanks, Lewis. It's been quite a week for Jack Miller. The victory from 7th 7 days ago in Japan, Jack. Almost another victory from 7th here today in Buriram. Talk us through how difficult that scenario was before the race. So you guys have not cut one single lap in the wet here all weekend. We know how good you are in rain conditions. Jack just congratulating you a while ago there. We know how good you are in the wet conditions, Jack, but that's a difficult situation to go into that Grand Prix with no wet weather experience.
No idea whatsoever. 2 warm-up laps, that's all I did. I saw a couple of the boys roll through pit lane a couple more times. I thought, oh, that's probably not a bad idea, but I don't know if the big Duke had enough fuel in it, to be honest. No, it was a stressful one, no doubt about it. But generally, whenever a wet session comes about or anything like that, the first wet session of a weekend, I'm generally pretty quick to jump to it and understand my setting. And to be honest, I wish Pippi had listened to me a little bit on my sighting laps. I said, this thing don't feel ideal. Through those flowing corners in the middle part of the track, let's say from turn 5 onwards, I was really suffering a lot through that section, and Miguel was able to gap me quite a lot there. He was super strong through that section. The thing was just, I felt like almost a little bit stiff. But yeah, I tried my best. I led a fair bit of the way there, and then when Miguel came past the first couple of times, I fought back. But no, I mean it was a long race, stressful race. I tried to have another go at him towards the end of the race. I swapped the map back and everything. It was really, I wanted to have another crack at that win, but no, through the back part of the like sector 3 going on sector 4, I was struggling through there, like I said, all race, and then I was like, all right, just have a little bit more risk this time, and I was pretty close to Miguel coming into 8, and but there was a kind of a dry line forming there, and I just come in a little bit too hot, went off the dry line, and that was all she wrote. It just, as soon as you get on that wet stuff, you can't really turn. You almost got to pick it up a little bit, and I was nowhere near close enough for a lunge at last corner. So he rode a fantastic race. Pecco rode a fantastic race. It's an amazing day for the team, and we kept ourselves in the championship, so that's a positive as well.
Yeah, you said Miguel rode a fantastic race. So did Pecco. So did you, mate. I mean, a really good effort. I mean, obviously you knew Miguel was going to be strong after what we saw in Mandalika at the start of the season. What do you feel there's just that slight small difference between the Ducati and the KTM today here in Buriram?
Just that middle part of the track. I definitely felt stronger in the first 2 sectors. The braking, I was really able to throw it in deep. You guys would have seen some decent lunges early on in the race. I felt really good on the brakes, but just when you're not really transferring too much of the weight, the thing was just sort of sitting on the tyre and sliding. So that was it.
Your teammate standing just to one side of you here, he said after that podium...
I can't say too much bad about him.
You can only say good things about him because Pecco Bagnaia just about a metre to Jack's left, but Pecco did say after the race that you gave him a bit of a pep talk before the Grand Prix, so what did you say to him?
Nothing major, just to believe in himself at the end of the day. He's one of the best riders in the world, and he's done a fantastic job up until now. I've definitely seen him ride in the wet very fast, and I've seen him a little bit apprehensive, let's say, when the rain clouds are coming around, and just stick it into him a little bit. I think it helped.
It looked like it certainly helped. Jack, the World Championship, still very much game on for you. I mean, it's going to be difficult, but 40 points back with 3 races to go, you're still in that fight.
We're still in that fight. As long as we can bring it home to Bologna, it'll be nice.
And, of course, massive week for you next weekend. Jack,
Definitely.
Everybody in the MotoGP paddock wishes you and Ruby all the best.
Thank you very much.
Perfect way to go into that big wedding day with a win and a podium in a week in Japan.
Yeah, so if I'm late rocking up to Phillip Island, you know why. No, thank you. I'm just glad the race didn't get postponed, otherwise I would have been in trouble.
We can't wait to see you in a suit looking your Sunday best. Great job today, Jack.
Cheers, well thanks, guys.
Yeah, congratulations to Jack Miller, and we wish him and Ruby all the very best for their upcoming wedding. Speaks very well at all times, doesn't he, Jack Miller? But I think, first of all, if you cut him open, he would bleed Ducati red. You can see just how much he wants Pecco Bagnaia to win this championship. They get on so well. But, of course, in a very important time of his life, just what a good place Jack Miller is in right now.
Yeah, completely agree. And like I was saying, I believe that Jack can keep this role going because of the good feeling with the machine and his confidence growing, not going backwards. So I think he's going to keep it going. Also, super surprising. How many riders go to the other side of the garage and give a pep talk to their teammate who they're out there battling with in the next race? They've got a quite special relationship, and I think Pecco's he's going to miss that next year, with so much support at all times. Yeah, really impressive.
Yeah, he's certainly going to have a teammate next season who's going to be out to beat him at every turn in an A-Bash Junior. Not that Jack Miller hasn't been earlier on in the season, but of course Jack Miller and Pecco Bagnaia have such a good relationship that Jack Miller will do everything he can to help Pecco Bagnaia if and when his championship hopes are ultimately out of play. And from Bagnaia's point of view, perhaps a precious 16 points for him in the World Championship today, coming through to take that podium, but such a contrast to what happened a week ago when Bagnaia crashed out on the final lap and, of course, had such a nightmare in the wet conditions at Motegi. Again, just shows how quickly it can turn on its head in a week.
Yeah, exactly what I was saying. And, Pecco's and Ducati have had the dream day, haven't they? I mean, I saw it written all over the Ducati staff's faces in Parc Ferme, and hopefully we see it written all over this man's face now.
Yeah, Pecco Bagnaia is now within 2 points of the World Championship lead after finishing third today. Let's get his immediate reaction with Matt Birt.
Yeah, what a difference a week makes after the disappointment of his last lap crash in Japan last weekend, having been so strong in the dry conditions all weekend here in Buriram. Pecco, tell the truth, how were you feeling when you saw the rain start to fall just before that MotoGP race? Because we know you've had your problems in the wet so far this year. You must have been thinking, please no, don't rain.
Sincerely, I wasn't so happy. This morning in the warm-up, I started with new tires for the same choice that I was doing for the race, and everything was perfect. I was able to do a really good pace, so I was perfect for the race. One of the best warm-up in my life on dry, so everything was okay for the race. Then when I see after Moto2 race that was starting raining, but not a light rain, a heavy rain like this, I was a bit upset. So I had the luck that Jack comes to me and give it to me some effort. And this is good. Like a teammate, I think will be difficult to have again this situation. But I hope that with Enea next year we can do something like this. Also, Jack is my friend, so it's also Enea. But we know very well each other. In any case, was difficult. Was strange that in Japan I was so slow and wet, like in Indonesia, because normally I'm not slow like this. I'm not the best, but I'm not slow like this. So the result of today is some good speed that I think come out after the angry of Japan. Thanks to the team also, we did a really good job.
You've always been very good at turning a negative into a positive. We have to ask you, what did Jack say to you before the race? He just told us that he could feel that you were perhaps a little bit nervous, a little bit apprehensive with the rain conditions. So exactly what did he say to you?
Was more or less to believe more in myself on wet. More or less.
That was it. Yeah. In Jack's own very special way, of course, I'm sure. Pecco, it wasn't an easy race. We know that Miguel and Jack had fantastic pace at the front of that Grand Prix, but you had Marc Marquez behind you. Never easy when you see plus 0.93 on the pit board. He made a move on you on the inside at turn 12. Talk about that battle you had with Marc.
I was just trying to be in front. I was trying to close in the gap from the leaders. That was very difficult because in the last part of the race, the front tire was closing a bit, a lot of front locking. But I'm happy. We had a battle like in Aragon because he tried to overtake me, and he was pushing behind me. Then Zarco too, but I think that I was strong on the braking and it was not so easy to overtake in that part. And if I was behind him in the last part of the race, I was doing the same of him because trying and overtake today was very difficult. So So I'm very happy about the race.
In the last 6-7 laps, Zarco's pace was incredible. He was doing 1:38. I mean, were you worried? I mean, obviously, there's been all this talk about team orders that he might try and attack you late on there. I mean, were you kind of thinking that he's going to make that move?
I was sure that he was trying to do some moves. I just tried, when he was behind me, I was just trying to do the best braking possible on I was trying to do. And I think that this affected me a bit, because if in case he was too faster than me, but a lot, he was trying to overtake for sure, because it was not a risky maneuver. So I'm happy that I had tried to improve on that area. That was the one I was struggling more in Japan, the braking. So job done, I think.
And we have to talk to you about the championship, because there's been so many twists and turns. Another big one today. No points for Fabio Quartararo. Pecco, you're 2 points behind now with 3 races to go. Your feelings going to Australia? Traditionally a difficult track for Ducati, but it's very much game on in terms of the championship now, isn't it?
Yeah, it will be very important to be competitive there. Will not be easy. 8 degrees, 10 degrees normally is the weather of Australia. But let's see. Let's wait there. I'm very looking forward to ride there again, because it's one of my favorite tracks. So I think we can do something good.
And that feels like one of the most important podiums of your career. You certainly had to work very, very hard for those 16 points today, Pecco. Many, many congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, congratulations to Pecco Bagnaia. 3rd place for him today, but more importantly than the trophy, it's the 16 points that he picked up today that have moved him to within 2 of Fabio Quartararo. A serious contrast to his previous performances in the wet so far this season. Of course, qualifying in Motegi, where he was the slowest rider on circuit, and Indonesia early in the season. Where do you think that change came from?
Well, it sounds like the team made, he said thanks to the team made some, at least did some research on why he didn't feel confident in the wet, but I think a lot came from him. I was trying to put myself into each rider's shoes as they were being interviewed there. We've still got Miguel Oliveira, obviously, but there's Miguel. He's going to be really happy, you know, with a win for him and KTM. You know, there's Jack. What an awesome performance, you know, the whole way right there. And Pecco Bagnaia is going to be the happiest man in this whole paddock right now after that, because so much worry, so much pressure championship-wise, and he pulled it all off. You know, didn't fall when it's so easy. Concentration-wise, like, I really admire Miguel to be able to lead the whole way like that and not make any mistakes. Concentration is huge. But Pecco as well, with that pressure, to go that well, to not make any mistakes, to do what he did, he'll be on cloud 9, I think, tonight, especially championship-wise, when his rivals had such a bad day.
Yeah, maybe that will banish some of the demons for Pecco Bagnaia today. Of course, 5 non-scores from this season, but he is now firmly in the title chase with Fabio Quartararo. But what a day for Miguel Oliveira today. For the 2nd time this season, Miguel is the master of wet conditions, the winner of the Thai Grand Prix, and Matt Birt is with him.
I think it's fair to say that MotoGP has a new rainmaster in 2022 after his brilliant victory in Mandalika at the start of the season. Another fantastic performance today, Miguel, in difficult conditions here in Buriram, 11th to 1st. Talk about that race, because it didn't look like, in very tricky conditions, you made a single mistake. It was almost perfection.
Yeah, it was difficult, because the track was quite tricky in some points, especially in a few straights we had a low visibility and aquaplaning. So this was the main issue for me in the beginning. I was trying to get a clear track ahead, but it was difficult to overtake without running wide or make any mistakes or override too much and lose the front. But yeah, I mean, I could get to a point of the race where I was catching Jack a little bit, and I could really analyze well how my potential was to go a bit faster or to keep the pace or to overtake him. And yeah, quickly I understood that I could make an overtake. It was not easy because I was faster in the last sector, but he was faster out of 12. So it was difficult to make a block pass. I tried once, didn't work out. The second time I did it, I tried to make a slightly different maneuver and run beside him a little longer. So yeah, then I had a gap and yeah, managed till the end.
What do you feel was the difference between the KTM and the Ducati of Jack Miller in those third and fourth sectors? Because Jack just told us that you had incredible speed, particularly through turns 9, 10, 11, where you closed upon him in the brakes. What could you see was the difference? Was it just the edge grip you had there that was better?
I mean, I had a good grip, also a very good drive out of 10, 11. I think this made the difference. My line was slightly different than his, and also I could carry a bit more corner speed through 7. So I think all this combined make me a little more room to pull away when I was in front of him in a crucial part of the track, which is the last part. So yeah, definitely this I have no explanation why the bike was fast. I was fast also, and I could take advantage of all the potential that the bike has.
What's happened? You've always been a fast rider, Miguel, in rain conditions, but this year something has changed because you were so dominant in Mandalika, so dominant here today. What is it about you and that KTM package that's working so well in the wet right now?
I mean, we had a good. I think we had a few races on the wet in 2020, but I couldn't really. Maybe the setting was slightly different, but soon with the team last year already we found a great way to set up the bike for the wet, and soon I feel very comfortable on it. So I think it's just a combination of everything. My ability to understand quickly the conditions, yeah, that's basically the logic. Explanation.
I was going to say you almost answered my next question, because it seems in those conditions when you've had such little wet track time, I mean there was no wet track time at all going into the Grand Prix. That's a very difficult situation for you guys to manage, but it's the guys that can understand, adapt to the changing conditions, understand where the grip levels are, that are going to be successful. That's exactly what you were. Is that something that you've been working on over these last couple of years or so?
Not specifically. As you see, like in Motegi, we had we had a lot of practices on the wet, so we had a lot of wet track time, and you see that the level between every rider comes a little bit more even, and we obviously don't have that extra ability anymore, because it's just the first impact, the first moment, the first 10 minutes where you ride on the rain, that it's very crucial that you can make a step. And these first 10 minutes of the race, I think they are the most important ones that give you the potential and also the indication as feeling-wise how far you can push.
Well, you've certainly got a love affair with wet races in Southeast Asia this year. Congratulations, Miguel, another fantastic performance backing up your win in Mandalika. Great job.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Congratulations to Miguel Oliveira and his second victory of the 2022 season. Every MotoGP rider is smart. You don't perform at this kind of level unless you are, but few are quite as intelligent as Miguel Oliveira. Just hearing him analyse his own race, the ability to have that kind of mental capacity while you're on the bike to analyse the rider in front of you, work out where they're fast, work out where you're fast, and ultimately plot your move, just shows how clever a rider he is on and off the bike.
Yeah, no doubt in any of our minds. I've got to say, he pretty much said it perfectly, how, that first 10 minutes, how quickly you get a feel and get going before the other guys do, because everyone gets going in the end. That was really well put. The thing that I took from that is I wasn't surprised at all. I don't think he was happy to be called a rain master, because riders that believe they can win in the dry hate being known as a master in the wet, because you have to go slow in the wet, you know what I mean? And they basically, I saw the look on his face. And the thing is, I fully believe that Miguel, with the package, he will win in the dry as well. He's got the whole thing together. I really believe that man next year, if he hits the ground running, makes friends with the Aprilia, I'm only saying it now because I think you'll believe it now that he's winning today, I believe if he hits the ground running, learns that Aprilia quickly, he will be a title contender. He might have some hiccups, take a bit of while to get used to it. Aprilia might not be strong at every track like here, but I think he'll be good, and he'll be back,
That's
not just in the rain.
His fifth MotoGP race win today. Very few riders in the history of the sport can say they've got 5 Premier Class wins, and only the most 2 recent wins have been in the wet. Very quickly, let's just revisit the battle for third place. Bagnaia took it in the end ahead of Joan Zarco and Marc Marquez, who battled the way down to the final lap. What was your reading on that battle in the end? Because Zarco was closing like a train in those final laps until he caught Pecco.
Yeah, I really believe that Johann Zarco had the pace to attack pretty quickly, and if not stay in front, keep attacking and then get by, you know. And yeah, there was a possibility of tyre drop down all of a sudden because the track was drying out. But I think that Johann Zarco is a clever lad. He's had a lot of experience. I know he feels very thankful to Ducati for rescuing him. They pulled him out of a very bad situation. He didn't have a ride, remember? And they put him into... back in those days, it was...
Avintia.
Avintia, sorry, it became another name after that, my memory. But Sponsorama, Ducati, and Ducati have supported him. He's their test rider, development rider. He's got so much experience that's what they use. He's got different chassis and parts than anyone else developing next year's bike. He's got a close relationship with them. I genuinely believe that was a thank you, like I said, from Parc Ferme, a thank you to Ducati for their belief in him. I'm sure he was saying thank you back to them and not passing Pecco, even defending Pecco a bit at the end, like making sure there was a gap between him and Marc, so Marc couldn't attack in the last laps.
Well, Marc Marquez did take 5th in the end. He'll certainly be a threat in a couple of weeks' time in Phillip Island. This World Championship has so many ingredients. Just very quickly, because the riders are ready for the press conference just over to our right-hand side. We're all looking so much forward to going back to Phillip Island in a couple of weeks' time. It's a circuit that very rarely produces bad races. And, of course, with so much on the line, can't wait to get out there.
Phillip Island is my favourite layout on the calendar. And when you listen to the riders speak about it, it's the majority of theirs as well. If not their favourite, they love it. It's the very fast turns, 200-kilometre-an-hour corners that are intimidating, but when you get them right, it's the most pleasure you can have on a motorcycle. So we're looking forward to go there. Hopefully the wind is low and the track is dry.
Well, we cannot wait to get out to Phillip Island, particularly with the World Championship the way that it is. Potentially 5 riders still in with a shout of the World Championship. Just 20 covers the top 3. 2 points between Fabio Quartararo and Pecco Bagnaia. It is game on in the World Championship. If you're watching us live, the press conference is coming up next. But for myself and Simon Crafar, we thank you for your company this weekend here in Buriram. We will see you in Australia.